Hi everybody, and welcome to Making a Graphic Novel with Alicia Dianne Art. Oh, my thing is like, I thought I was putting it the right way, but my little choker got twisted up. Alright, let's try that again. Welcome to Making a Graphic Novel with Alicia Dianne Art. I'm Alicia Dianne, and we're going to be starting painting on spread number, I think we're on number 16 out of 48. So I still have a little bit of ways to go, but I am determined to get this done in the next couple of months and publish book 2 of Jaydi's story, Prudence. So let's go on over to our desk and start painting, okay? And we'll continue our conversation over there. There we are. Okay, let's keep going. Make sure I have my mic. Let's see my microphone. Perfect. All right, so just wanted to make sure that you guys can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully you guys see pretty well. Let's zoom in a little bit. All right. Let's see if my angle is good. All right, I think that's pretty good. Maybe we'll start. I think that's all right. All right, so what I'm going to do is just pick up where I left off. I just did the, what is it called? the base color. I don't know why I couldn't think of the name for some reason. I am just so like on a roll this week because it's been sort of crazy. I had my wisdom teeth out this week, and I'm still in a good amount of pain. It doesn't feel good. I'm trying to like recover, but you know, I'm working through it. It's one of those things in life where it just feels like, all right, you're walking through the valley, sort of thing. It's just, it feels challenging, but I know that I will make it. So that's where I was last Tuesday. I was under the knife, literally in the dentist's office. Hold on just a second. Let me make sure that I have my connection going all right. It was seeming like it was going fine with the wireless a second ago, but maybe it needs to be connected in the cable. So let me check. Let's see if this is working all right. All right, so hopefully. Alright, so I think I've got it now. I don't know, I think I got it mixed up for a second there because I had it like wirelessly connected, but I'm not sure if that's completely reliable. So I'm just going to leave that cable in there as I start moving in. Alright, so let's get to the conversation of today. Today, I really just wanted to get back to work because some crazy things can happen when you lose track of your priorities, and I think that kind of happened for me. I was trying to do way too many things at one time. I don't know if I mentioned it or not before on my last talk, but I've been teaching 3 classes this semester, and though I do enjoy the teaching process, it is a lot of work. Especially the prep work. The prep work takes even longer than the actual, all of the courses. But I had too much on my plate. I was really getting behind in my comic. And I think that's it feels like a recurring theme. It's not the first time that I've gotten like distracted. And I'm sure it won't be the last time either. But these things keep happening. And it's like, how do you just move on from it? I don't know if there's one particular way to move on from it, but you just have to be willing to just keep going. And that's, I think, the part, like, one of the most important things with making sure that you actually love what you're doing, or feeling like you have a bigger purpose for working on your whatever your series is, or your book. Because it's so much work, but it's enjoyable work, but it's a lot. It takes up a lot of time, and it takes a whole lot of commitment. So you really have to make sure that you are invested. Just like so many other things, it's like it just is that personal investment. But here, it's kind of nice when you actually get back to it, and you see yourself crossing a new milestone. So for me, this scene is the last scene in the marketplace. Up until now, this whole book too, all of the pages that I've colored have been essentially part of the same scene. It's all been in the marketplace. It opened up in the marketplace, and a couple of different things happened. But this is the last page or spread that's in this marketplace, and then we're moving on. It's going to be a scene transition tonight, and we're going to be back in Jaydi's house. So it feels like I'm crossing over a little bit of a threshold here. So even though it took me a while to make it to that point, it's like, because that's the thing too, is like when you're working and you're working on the same, what feels like the same thing for a long time, it can start to feel repetitive. And that definitely does happen to me. It feels like, oh gosh, I'm going to be doing the same thing over and over again. But then one day, all of a sudden, it's just like, oh, I finished. I finished that part. And it kind of comes out of nowhere, and I didn't even realize it till this morning that this is the last shot that I have in this area. And then we're moving on to a whole different realm, essentially, in a different scene. And it makes me feel like, all right, well, it is moving, because when you're doing something and you're in the same scene over and over again, and it does take a long time, you're like, it just, I don't know if your mind like kind of numbs out, but I feel like that kind of happened for me. Like I started to like numb out or something, and I don't know what the right term would be, but it's like, oh yeah, more happens. More is happening here. But it's kind of exciting to finally get to that point, because it does feel like, it just feels like it took me so long to get here, that it's like finally. And sorry, my paintbrush is kind of hitting the edge of the camera there. Try to make sure that doesn't happen anymore. All right, so let's get to today's topic. I never really know exactly what I'm going to talk about, but one thing that was really that I did want to acknowledge, which is really amazing, is we made it to the 600 mark. We made it to the 600 subscribers mark, and I'm really happy about that. It's something that, of course, I was hoping would happen. And it's something that's definitely like a long time in the making. Been working a long time at this channel, and to see like more people are getting benefit out of it, it's like, it really feels good to me, and it makes me feel really happy. So thank you to everyone who's subscribed. And if you haven't yet, then what are you waiting for? 600 people plus have already done this. Oh gosh. So yeah, I just hope that you do subscribe, because I do hope to really continue to grow the channel as much as possible by still like keeping the same way of my doing things. All right, this is it's a lot of the progress, stepping into like, what is the progress of making your own graphic novel? How do you even get started? What medium you choose? Like, thinking through problems that come along, thinking through obstacles and all the things that go into it, like what happens when you publish, like how do you look for a book publisher, all of that stuff. And I mean, that is one thing that I can talk about too today, since I don't know if I talk about like the book publishing side of it in a while. One of the things that you do need to do when you're finished with writing your script and completing your illustrations is you want to make sure that you do get yourself a copyright. I mean, I think this seems obvious, but because we do have an automatic copyright when we create something, some people don't take that next step and actually send things off to the copyright office, which is, I think it's just copyright.gov. You can look it up, especially if you're not in the United States, it'll be something else. But it is important if you're publishing anything, if you're putting any work that's going to be in print, especially, I think it's really important to get an official copyright. And I mean, that might be obvious, but I just want to make sure that I put that out there just in case there's anybody who might have skipped that step. So you don't want to skip that. You definitely want to make sure you get the copyright. But along with that, you also want to get an ISBN. And that is something that I was new to when I did my first book, which was Jaydi Story number 1. I had never had an ISBN before. I didn't know what an ISBN was. I still might mess up like what that stands for. It's like an individual something ISBN, individual something book number. I know the B is a book and the N is number, but anyway, it's how your book is recognized like across the board in every published book that you'll find like in a bookstore or in a library is going to have one of these. That's how they're really able to track your book in a big setting where they have lots of books. That's how you might be able to find a book. Even on, if you do like an Amazon search, like they might have like the option to look up an ISBN. That way it's very specific that only your book has that number. I'm trying to remove this little bit of paint that's right here. So you, there's what is the name of the website where I got mine from? There's a website. Let me see if I can look it up. I'll put it in the link. I'll put it in the description actually, so that you guys can look that up, because it's definitely something that you have to do. Like, you don't want to skip that part, just like you don't want to skip the copyright, because you really need that. And one of the things that I did was I was lucky enough to be working with another comic artist, and he actually told me about his book printer, which was here in the United States. So, I mean, there's a few that are here in the US, and I can look up their names too. The one I use is RA Comics Direct. So if you wanted to look them up, they're here in California, but I think they're in NorCal. So it's RA Comics Direct, and there is another pretty big comics and graphic novelist printer in Florida. I would have to look them up. But that was my first publishing. That was my first run of printing. If I was to do it again, and I will be doing it again, obviously, I may look to do it overseas. I think I might have talked about that part before. It just seemed like, I don't know if there's a huge benefit to printing in the US, because it does cost significantly more. The one thing that I do know about, that I've heard anyway, about printing overseas, which is primarily done in China, is that you do have to get a relatively big book number to start. Like, you can't just print like 100 books. You have to print as far as I've heard, like, you know, probably like 1,200 books or something like that. You have to print more, but apparently it is a lot cheaper per book. So I'm thinking of looking in that direction for the next print. What I did like was the ability to really just talk to my printer, which I was able to do a lot. We had pretty open communication with emails. We did run into a hiccup the first time. It was one of the pages, or one of the colors I should say, was really off. So that had to be fixed, but they did end up fixing it for me. It did take a few emails of me like kind of like saying, hey guys, this needs to be fixed. But they did end up fixing it because they did realize that it didn't look like the proof. It wasn't the same, so it needed to be changed. But going forward, I might, I'm thinking I'm leaning towards trying to go for a larger print done internationally. Another thing that I'm looking to is working with a self-publishing company, and they're called Ingram Spark. You might have heard of them already. They are pretty popular in the self-publishing world. As far as I understand, it really does help to get your book in the stores. And that's one of the things that I'm really looking for, because my book right now is not in any stores. It's only in online stores. It's not in any brick and mortar stores, I should say, like more specifically. It's only on my online store, and it is on Amazon, and it's on my Etsy. So I have it in 3 places, but it's not like on Barnes & Noble, or like if you go into Target, and that's what I really want. I want it to be able to be in the major market. So that's another thing that I'm looking into. And as soon as I learn more about that, then I'd be happy to share more. But Ingram Spark is, from what I know about them, is able to help self-publishers get their books into a bigger market, like those things, like those places. So that's what I'm hoping to do. And I would recommend definitely looking into them and seeing if you can work with that. That's more into the advanced stages, like after you're already finished and you ready to go. You have like all of your editing done. You definitely need an editor. And I found my editor on Upwork. And I personally wanted an editor for cultural reference, because for my book, it's really, based in East Africa. I haven't been myself to East Africa, and I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't, or I didn't have anything that didn't feel culturally right. So I wanted to hire someone who was, fluent in Swahili, knows the culture, make sure that I'm, not putting anything in the book that feels like a stereotype or doesn't feel like appropriate or anything like that. Because one thing that was really important to me is that I'm honoring the culture, and I'm not like dishonoring the culture. Even though I have a fictional story, I still wanted to be really careful that what I'm doing is uplifting. Even though it is a difficult and challenging story, I still wanted to make sure that I'm telling it in such a way that feels right, if that makes sense. So I did hire a Tanzanian editor, and it was really an amazing experience to work with her, honestly. Getting to know her was awesome. She helps me with different types of the lingo that and helped me to make sure to double check where I did have Swahili language going on, because there are several areas in this book and in the last book and in all of the books actually that have different Swahili text, and I just wanted to make sure that all of that was right. And it didn't cost too much. I mean, I think it was a fair price. It was a freelance job, and we worked together. We met a few times over Zoom, and it went really smoothly. So, but I would definitely still, especially if you're doing something that's cultural, I would recommend hiring an editor to help you there. And even if it's your first time too, if it's your first time creating a book and you're not really sure of the industry, I think having an editor, and you can hire somebody on a website like Upwork. It's like good for if you only need them for like one specific project. It's not like you're going to be doing the same thing all the time, or you know, you have a editor to check in with every single week for years at a time. It could just be project specific, and that's what's good about the ability to hire someone on Upwork. If you're already working with a publisher, which is great, then they'll already have their own editor that you can work with. And how you get a publisher, I don't have I don't have a publisher that I work with. The way that I know that you can get a publisher is if you really kind of get lucky. It's basically like the whole idea is if you are able to get accepted by a publisher. So you would have to look in yourself and do some research on a type of book publishers that you're interested in, the type of look at the types of books that you like, that your work is like similar to. Then you would go ahead and look up who publishes them. And then you go to their website and they'll have all the submission details for if you want to submit a work to them. It's not an easy thing, or not an easy thing to be accepted as far as I understand. I know that you should expect to not get accepted the first time that you submit something. Hopefully at least you'll get some notes of like what you can probably do to help you get your chances. I would look up who the editors are at the publisher and maybe email them and ask them for advice. And then you can keep going, which is, maybe something that I can do too. I mean, I'm not opposed to working with a publishing company. I want to just find ways to get my book out there as, the best way possible. Like, my first concern with getting my first book done was just making sure that I got the book done. But now that I'm looking into, like, a more of a series and getting multiple books out into the world, I'm totally open to looking into, like, publishers to work with. My biggest thing right now is making sure that I own the rights to my intellectual property. And that will be one thing for you to also, like, understand too, is are you willing to sell your intellectual property, or is it something that you want to keep, which is, all your artwork, your characters, your story. For me, I want to keep those things because for me that's really important. But for you, you might be just like, hey, I just want to get this out there. I don't mind selling my IP. All right. Let's see. But yeah, I would just look up different publishers, look up books that are similar to yours and see who publishes them, and then just write them down, make a list of at least like 10, 20, up to even 100 publishers, and just see what their submission details are like, what they're requiring. But first, make sure you have a project too, But it wouldn't help to, like, if you're still unsure about the type of work you want to do, maybe you can look and see what else is being done. At least that can help you make sure that you narrow down, like, who your book is for, like, the age group that you want to reach. That's really important. Like, you wouldn't submit to, like, Penguin Books, for example, if you're doing, like, a young adult horror or something like that. Because at Penguin, they do picture books. They do children's, like, 5 to 8 years old. Usually different publishers are pretty specific. I was going to say Pacific, but specific with, the age group that they're trying to reach, Scholastic, like, they're very specific. They're reaching a certain age group. You know, you can expect it's going to be like fourth and like, you know, like third and fourth graders are going to be reading Scholastic books, you know. I think that Captain Underpants is published by Scholastic. But then if you're doing like superhero comics, then that is very specific also. You want to find a publisher that does specifically that sort of type of book. And I know there's a few different publishers. Ooh, I should have left some room here for the ground. Oh well. I forgot to leave the sidewalk plain, but it's like a dirt road sidewalk, but I can probably fix that a bit. We'll see. We'll see. All right. So let's see. If you have your book, how do you look for publishers that are international? That's a big question. I did see, definitely look at other people who are making their own and publishing their own. I like the idea of self-publishing because I don't like rejection. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to worry about it. I don't want to think about it. I just want to do what I want to do without even worrying about like even the possibility of rejection. All right. I just like want to know that I can do it. And that's for me, I think, a big reason too why I wanted to go the self-publishing route. Need to be like, I mean, mind you, I still have to get, you know, approval from an audience. I did release my first book on Kickstarter. So, I mean, I do need the approval of the audience. You need some approval. But I don't want a boss's approval. I don't want to have, like, to worry about a boss. If I need to worry about my customers, that's fine. But boss, no, I didn't want that. So the self-publishing route is always an option. And then, you know, later on, especially if you start selling well, then you can always still reach out to a publisher to collaborate and work with. And then you even have more leverage, you know, because you don't need them as much. You have more leverage of like, yeah, I'm not selling my IP. I think you probably have a much better chance of being able to negotiate what it is that you actually want out of the process, which is always a good thing. That's always a good thing. Let me see. What are some of the other things that I've learned here? I think you have to have a certain amount of faith in what you're doing too. Even if you don't get the response that you want right away. For me, it's been an ongoing process to just continually try and I guess keep myself going and keep myself like encouraged, like along this whole way, because it's definitely like it's hard to really believe in something before anybody knows what it is. Or before you have any like before you have a real like big following or anything like that. I definitely don't have a big following. So it's hard to like say, oh yeah, I know this is going to do well, because the truth is I don't, you know. You hope it does well. I hope it does well, but it's not a guarantee. It's just like a really like a hope. So you have to kind of push past all of that part to keep on believing in something, even though there's no guarantee. It's almost like the fake it till you make it thing, which I don't like how that doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound great, I'll say, but it's part of it. It feels like that it is part of it. But then you'll see moments where it's like, oh hey, maybe this will work. I definitely experienced that when I went to the Essence Fest a few years ago in 2022. And that was the same year that I published. The Kickstarter was in December 2021, and the books were sent out a few months after that. And the Essence Fest, oof, I don't know if I'm messing this up. I'm trying to take away some of the color, but it might be too late. It just felt a little oversaturated, but I'm gonna have to let that dry before I mess with it anymore. I'm gonna have to leave that alone. But yeah, I saw a great response at the Essence Fest, and I was really happy about that. But it hasn't been like, continuous. So I'm like, I know that I'm not near, and that haven't been around my target demographic, and that's what I need to like try and shoot for. I think every book needs a demographic that you're trying to reach. It is challenging if you don't live around that demographic. Like I was in New Orleans, and I think that was a great place to be. I'm trying to get to the Dragon Con this year. I've applied to go to that. I think that will also be a great market for me and what I'm trying to do. And I really would like to find, because, LA is a big city. And I really want to find more places that I can find that are close to me that will allow me to reach the groups I'm trying to reach. Specifically, that would consider that like teen readers, readers of color, people interested in Black culture and history. I'll just have to keep on trying to reach them. See, this is like the color I'm trying to get. I don't know why that other one got so... I know why. I had too much ink on my brush, but it's just frustrating when that happens. Because now I don't know what to do with that. Hopefully it doesn't mess it up too much. I'll have to see what it looks like when it's dry. I may need to redo that panel. Oops. Shoot. Keep messing everything up. We'll see. I'm used to using my good paint too, but sometimes even with the good paint, it's like too good. It's like, like I need to water you down. You have too much color right now. Sometimes the color I'm using is not really that color. It's a watered down version. So I gotta try and get that exact shade that I want. I wanted to make the earth this reddish color because I just feel like I wanted to have that red earth that like I've seen in so many of those photos of Africa. And they talk about it in that movie. I don't know if you've ever seen Blood Diamond. They talk about like the earth in Africa being so red because of all the blood that's been shed. I wanted it to be a little bit symbolic too. It sounds dark, but it doesn't feel dark to me. It just feels like awareness more than darkness, or like almost like an honoring, if that makes sense. So I'll try and get this. All right. I'm still mad about that panel, but hopefully I can fix it somehow. I don't know if I can, but I hope so. We'll see. We'll see. Getting hungry though. It's about lunchtime. And my mouth has been so sore all week. Just started eating like solid food again on Saturday. Is it so weird? Like one color is like oversaturated, and then the next one is like too watered down. I can't like get all of them to be consistent at the same time. That's annoying, but whatever. Do my best to figure it out. See if this works better. Hopefully it's not too saturated either. No, that feels all right. It feels like it doesn't matter how big or small the panels are. However many, it just depends on how many panels you have, because no matter if I have a big panel, small panel, the more panels I have, it's just going to take longer to do it, like regardless. Even though it's the same amount of space, like I'm always working 8.5 by 11 sheets, and they're cut down to these same rectangular portions. But if I have more panels, it's just going to take so much longer. Because I think it's just, each one is its own little painting, you know? Each one is still its own little illustration, and it's going to take the attention of its own little illustration, so it really does not matter. It's like equal amount of time to do like one big panel and one small panel. It feels that way for sure. It feels like it's equal. All right, let's see, what can I do next? Let's see, I'm trying to think, is there any like other obstacles I face with the self-publishing stuff? Geez. I joined the comics launch, which is like a program. It's a course, it's an online course, and there's like a little community on Facebook, I joined that in 2021, like the same year that I was planning to launch my Kickstarter, and the same year that I did launch my Kickstarter. And I don't think that I would have been able to launch it like I did without that, because it was my first time figuring out everything, and I really think that that program helped me a lot. So if you are planning to do a Kickstarter, I would recommend it. It can be a bit pricey, but it's set up as a monthly payment. I think the whole thing is like $1,200, something like that. Which was not even the amount that I put as my goal for Kickstarter, but I wanted to keep all of my expectations low, so that way hopefully everything would be exceeded, and it was, because then I surpassed my Kickstarter amount, which is awesome. But I would definitely recommend it, especially if it's your first go around. It takes a lot of the guesswork out. It kind of lays out a format for you to follow, and you can apply it to any sort of a genre. So the guy's name, I don't think I remember what his name is, but if you just look up Comics Launch, it's COMIX. That's really helpful, and it will really help you if you're trying to launch Kickstarter. And apparently comics are like one of the number one, if not the number one type of projects that you can have on Kickstarter, which is really awesome. And one of the things that I didn't realize, that a lot of people use Kickstarter. A lot of artists use Kickstarter. And I think it's an excellent tool, and I would recommend it for anybody who's trying to put their first comic out. Or second. I think I'm going to do it again for this book. Especially if I go for the route of printing overseas, because that's going to be a hefty price, and so it would be helpful to know who's gonna be buying those books in advance. That's one of the things that's really helpful. If you can get people to order in advance, then you won't just have books sitting there, because you don't need 1,200 copies of your own book just in your garage or under your bed or at your mom's house or wherever. It's nice to have a guarantee of somebody is going to be reading this. So I think I'll look into international pubs, and I'll have to look up. The only thing is, when I looked up that one publisher in China before, they were really vague on the website. It seemed sketchy, even though I definitely trusted the person who I got the recommendation from. And I really loved their work. The website felt so weird and like unprofessional. I'll just have to look at them again and see if it's the same deal. And then put a door in there. I realized I didn't draw the door. Okay, somebody texted me. So my son texted me. My son is in college. Is that crazy? Feels like just so recently. Well, that's because I've been in college so many times. I've gone back to college way more than anybody should have. And I'm going to go back to college again. I'm planning, I didn't tell you guys about this, did I? Yeah, I'm planning on going back to college again next year to get my second master's degree, because I'm crazy. I want to study African studies, because I want to learn more. And that's the thing too. I think if you're making like a comic series, it should be something that you're pretty passionate about. For me, this whole process has been like just as much as a self journey as it's been like a story journey. I'm discovering myself as I'm creating this comic. And I hope that for you, that as you're making your comic, your graphic novel series, that you're making something that is really like a part of your own growth as a person and as an individual, just as much as it is a growth for your character. I feel like I've grown just as much as my main character has throughout this whole process. That's for sure. Like the hero's journey is also like, feels like the author's journey in many ways. It's definitely been that way for me. It's definitely been a learning process for me. And it's ignited a passion that I have that I didn't always know I had, but through this journey, it's really made me realize how important this is for me. So hopefully it's that for you too. That's why I keep on saying it, but it's like, make sure you care about your story. That's like the most important thing, I think. I think the publisher, printing, all of the stuff you do is so minute and like it just doesn't even matter by comparison to like really like, do you care about your story? That's the biggest thing that I gotta say. You gotta care about your story. And if you don't, then don't make it. I mean, it sounds simple, right? But it's true. It's like that is gonna be the thing, and it's gonna like be more important than any other part, by far. If you're caring about the actual story that you're making, it's gonna matter so much more. All right. Also have yellow in the sky. Like I have a whole schemata of like the different colors the sky is. Like I have the early morning, I have like my midday, my mid-morning. It's all a different color. Like afternoon, it's just like pure yellow because it's hot. Early morning, it's like pink and yellow from the sunrise. And like mid-morning is just like blue and yellow. It's like starting to get hot, but it's not that hot yet. But it will be. So have this like transition of sky color. Those are just like the little things. Little things to pay attention to. Let me see what my son said for me. Oh, my son left his thumbnails. He was doing a homework assignment, so let's see. I need to text it to him, so let me just go on ahead and text my boy his work, and I will be right back. Alright, sorry about that. Gotta look out for my boy. He forgot his homework. So I had to text it to him. Oh boy. Okay, so let's see, where did I leave off? My buildings. Alright, so let me see which building is what over here. I had to make this map of my buildings, and that's something I think will be good to share with you guys. I made a map. First I made a list, right? First I made an actual map. And if you guys can see, I have all the building numbers, and I have like these are all like businesses. These are my farmlands, and these are my housing. So, and this is like the dump. So I thought about everything. This is the square. This is where they do like community events, sporting events, things like that. So I had to think about all the things that we needed in the town, and that way make a map so I know where things are, so that way when my characters are moving around in the area, I'll know like what's around them, and it will be consistent, because I'm making 12 books, and every time that, you know, they're next to, like, let's say the primary school, for instance, and then the building next to it keeps changing, that's going to be a problem. So it was really important to me that I figure out where everything is in relation to each other. And then I made another like mini map of like the colors of the different buildings. That way I can just refer to this and like kind of see like, okay, this one is this color, that one's that color. That way I can go back and easily paint them in those colors. So that was really helpful for me. So if you're doing something that's in a town where the characters are moving around, I think that will be really helpful for you as well. So let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and put in some of these. And now he's texting me like crazy. Alright, so I'm gonna paint, this one is this color. So let's see, paint this in. There might be a door there, but I just want to, I know, I'll just paint this in this first coat. And then there's this over here. All right. And so I know a few things, and one thing I know is that this guy is after, let's see, he's after that octagon, so we're gonna go into the brown color. I'm trying to figure out where he is now on the map. There's just like this little octagon building here, and then there's like a bush. So alright, just making sure that I'm figuring out where things are, where he is. I may need to look back as a reference to kind of see where I placed him. Alright. Like figuring out the backgrounds can be like some of the hardest parts of this thing, right? It really can be. Let's see. All right. So let's see. Car service, farming, octagon. Dang. I still feel like this building should be the tan one. That's what I think it should be. And alright, and I'll make this one is this color over here. He's a mysterious fellow, this guy. I think it's fun to have different types of characters. I have some that are like goofy, like, and creepy. I think I have a few. I have some that are just playful, some that are energetic, some that are laid back and like calm. So I think it's really important to have a nice variety of the types of characters that you include in your story. I think that just makes it so much more interesting for people to read, and it also makes it fun for you as the creator to kind of have, like, you know, all these little personality types, and you can play off of the people that you know, people that you've met, all of that stuff. It comes into play when you're doing this, so it can be really fun, and I think it should be fun. Alright, we're wrapping up here, but I just want to go ahead and color in a few more of these little buildings here as we wrap up for today. And I go and get myself a little bit of lunch because I'm getting hungry now. I'm going to try and find a decent soup because my mouth is still hurting. I feel like I want to do my color too for my trees, and then I'm gonna call it for our video. Alright. So I gotta be careful since the orange is still wet. I don't want these two to interact because then they'll just bleed into each other, and I don't want that to happen. So I'll do this, and then I'll put some of this over here. That's where my bushes come this way. Some more bushes over here in the other direction. And I painted over her water by accident. So let me see if I can move some of that paint away. I think with watercolor it is pretty nice and flexible. So you don't have to get it perfectly. You just have to kind of learn how to use it. I say this over and over again, but yeah, watercolor, you definitely have to make friends with it. You have to befriend the watercolor, or it will be enemy you. That is for sure. If you do not make friends with watercolor, it won't be your friend. It's like a cat. Watercolor is like a cat. Whereas, like, you know, certain things are like super friendly. Crayons are like a dog. Everybody gets along with them. But no, watercolor is definitely like very catty. Alright, so I have in most of my base color. It has a long way to go still before I'm done with this spread. Definitely got to put in a couple more hours, but I'll keep working at it. Okay, so welcome back to me. I'm so goofy. But yeah, that's our day. But hopefully that was helpful and a little bit about publishing your first comic, thinking about printers, starting to think about your copyrights, your ISBN. Let me see if I can find the name of uh, that thing, and I'll just so I don't forget to share it with you. I think it's called Bowker. Bowker. Is that what it's called? Yes, something like that. It's called myidentifiers.com. Okay, great. Bowker Publishing Services. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that into the description so that you guys have it, so that way you can get an ISBN for your book. You need it for both physical and you need one for what is it called? If you're publishing digitally, like an ebook. So there's so much more to explore. I think maybe one of these chats I'll do like a run through of like how you make an EPUB book. When I did mine, oh geez, it's a whole process. It's a whole process that I can't even get into now. Like that's a whole episode in itself. But hopefully this was helpful in you getting started with starting to think about how you're going to be publishing, starting to think about things that you need, and kind of take note of like the things that you didn't realize you needed before. That way you can start to line things up so it doesn't feel overwhelming once you get to that stage. Alright, hopefully this was helpful for you. Thank you so much for joining me. I will be at the Oscars on Sunday, so look for me. I probably will not be on camera, but but I'll be there because I'm very lucky to have a husband that works for the Oscars, so I'll be there. And then I'll talk about it next week. So if I have any juicy details, if anybody, hopefully nobody gets slapped, especially not me, like. But I'll let you know about it next week. So until I see you guys again, be grateful and balanced and be yourself. And please check out my website, aliciadianne.com. We have a brand new book club. We still are just starting, so you still have a chance to jump in. And Patreon, I'm only starting at $1 a month. I won't be this cheap forever. But yeah, please support me on Patreon and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week.